Strategies in helping your child with learning nonfiction text. It is a stark change from those nice little storybooks that we've been reading to them up to this point. But it's going to be like 75% of what they'll work on as they move on to second and third and further on. So it's important that we start building those skills now. When you came in, just want to make sure, did everybody get a little pouch with supplies and a folder? Okay, that'll be our little project for tonight as well. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Miss Arnold.
All right, so welcome. I am Mrs. Arnold. I teach at James Harrison and have for almost 20 years now. Almost. Nonfiction text. Now, I know as an adult, we hear nonfiction and we go, it's a little more of a chore. Hopefully not. So, a lot of us had things that we really liked from the nonfiction world when we were little. What was your favorite thing to learn about as a child? Dinosaurs, plants, outer space, cars. And why? Or what did you like about that?
It was just like a fantasy, like different stories that the author would create.
Okay. Did anybody have one of those things that, you would ask your parents, what's the name of that? What's that called? My mom said I did that with plants. What is the name of that flower? She's like, I have no idea. Dinosaurs tend to be a big one for our kids. It's fun. You get to show the adult that you can say this really, really big dinosaur name. They get to be the experts. There's a quote from somebody that says, no adults ever ask me what my favorite dinosaur is. But anytime I talk to kids, they do. It's one of those things. So nonfiction, it's a chance to take those things, those interests, and give them a chance to learn about them and a chance for them to be the expert and maybe teach us. It gives them, kiddos, that sense of control and that sense of empowerment of, I can be an expert at my age. All right, so tonight, as Danielle said, we're here to discuss and understand what the importance of reading nonfiction, what is the importance of reading nonfiction text, and how can you help your child understand that text that they've read, and how to make it fun, or at least more fun. As an adult, we think of those college textbooks or those certification textbooks. And it's like, I have to learn all the parts of the body. I have to learn all of the levels of development on my end. And nowadays, it's like, why do I need to memorize this? I can go back to the internet anytime I want and look it up. So how can we take this and make it not so much of a chore? Why? It's important because it's a life skill. As I said, when you go out into the world and you get a job, there is usually some type of manual, some type of specialized knowledge that you need. So if our children never come across these things, it's hard to look at that. Even if it's something as simple as building that IKEA table. Because that's nonfiction text, that instruction manual. Admittedly, not the best example of nonfiction coherent text, in my opinion, but the skills learned from this go towards those things. A little bit of the facts behind it. 2/3 of our students who cannot read proficiently by the end of 4th grade will end up in jail or on welfare. That's a scary number. And on my end, I don't want my kindergarten babies to end up there one day. And if I can help it so that they don't, that's my goal. 70% of America's inmates cannot read above a 4th grade level. 1 in 4 children grow up without learning how to read. And our children who cannot read proficiently by 4th grade are 4 times likelier to drop out of school. Now, I don't need every one of the children that passes through my door to go to college. I'm a believer trade schools are great. Other career paths are great. But my goal is for them to be successful adults who can have a home, and if they want a family one day, and a successful job. And teaching them to read and teaching them how to work with these texts is a big part of that. You're their first teachers. You're it. And you've already done some of this nonfiction stuff. You may not have realized you've done some of it, but you have. Your kid watches whatever cartoon show, they ask you about the thing. Next time you're at the store, they're like, why do the octonauts keep finding fish? Tell me more about the fish. You find a book on fish, you read the book on fish to them. But you're the most important in teaching your child to read. I can fine-tune it, or your child's teacher can fine-tune it, but we can't do it alone. And it doesn't have to be in English. It can be in whatever language you are comfortable with at home. The skills will carry over. Cool things. Every Prince George's County student has a library card. Their student ID, unless something has drastically changed, is a library card. On their little Clever accounts, they have access to different apps, different things that have books. There are any number of things that you can find online for free. Doesn't have to be expensive. Second Avenue. Now I haven't been to this one in a while, but they used to do a book deal where you got 5 books for a certain amount of money. And I could always find nonfiction. I teach math, science, and social studies this year, so nonfiction texts are always a good thing for me to have. That's one of the places I go to supplement my library. And my daughter's when she was younger. So, without these skills, it's that Charlie Brown, the teacher voice, when the teacher is up there talking about these things. It becomes words that hold no meaning. It's like if I was presenting to you in ancient Greek. I could talk at you in it. I can't personally speak ancient Greek, but I could present to you. You all would sit here. You get a bitter piece here and there. So sort of the nitty-gritty of what to do. I've got this book. My kid really is interested in Minecraft. I got him this guide on how to play Minecraft. Now I'm stuck reading this guide on Minecraft. I don't know anything about Minecraft. I don't particularly want to know anything about Minecraft. But they want to know. They can't read it yet. It's up to me. Start simple. Here's the book. On whatever nonfiction topic. What do you think? Show them the front. What do you think the topic is? What's the main idea? What do you think this book is about? That introduces some academic vocabulary of topic and main idea. Doesn't have to be a big fancy lesson where we're looking at a passage, we're writing it out. At home, it's a quick question. What do you think it's going to be about? They admittedly sometimes may say, I think the book's going to be about a fluffy kitten. There's no kitten on the front. It's got a picture of a building, and you're wondering, where does the kitten come from? It's a good follow-up question. Tell me more about why you think this book has a kitten in it. They might make a connection. They might not. They might just be like, I like kittens. That comes to that. Does this book remind you of anything? Hopefully, they say, well, at this one time at school, if it's particularly like a science book or something, we were learning about plants and we got to grow a plant. It's coming up in K. We just hit living things. Very exciting. Pre-K, I know they do some growth. Now, nonfiction books are special. Storybooks, we have the chapters maybe, or the story, how it moves. Nonfiction books have that table of contents. So you open it up, you say that why are there all these words and numbers? What do you think those are for? It's called a table of contents. What do you think? What could that mean? And you may have to explain a little bit or lead them to it. Or we'll come back to that. You gave a guess? Let's take a look through the book and look at a few things and see if your opinion changes. This next one's a big one. How can you tell this is a nonfiction book? It has real life pictures. It does not follow a story. Most nonfiction books. Every once in a while you get one that sort of tells somebody's story, like biographies and things, but usually nonfiction books, they're facts. It's not somebody saying, oh, I like the cute little puppy. At the end, start simple. What is one fact you learned? And you can even warn them. We're going to read this book tonight. We're not going to make it through the whole book, chances are. But at the end of it, I want you to tell me one thing you learned. Doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be, I learned that violets are purple. If it's a book about plants. I learned that plants need sun. Does this seem doable? Does it seem like something at home when you have one of those nonfiction books? Or when the teacher sends home or says, we are learning about whatever, as they grow, as they get older, they will have text and passages and things to read. Does it seem? I know we've got one head nod. Maybe makes it seem a little less daunting. So what do you need from me? Because you guys, as I said, are the experts. What questions do you have about this nonfiction thing? I can tell you the why we teach it in school, because as I said, it's a life skill, but it's also something that unfortunately they're going to come up against in pretty much every standardized test they're going to take. I said, we've got a head nod over here. Nonfiction is hard, and it's particularly hard because it has a language of its own. Storybooks are universal. It uses language that even if it's not a word you're familiar with, you can usually pick up the meaning from the pictures or the story. Nonfiction, we start getting into things like, oh, this book's about math. They're talking about subitizing. They're talking about the order of operations. I don't know what that means. Quadrilateral what? It's its own language. Science topics have their own academic language. Our kids, as a whole, struggle with this because they come across these big words that they've never heard before, they've never encountered before, and they don't know what to do. It's like learning French or Spanish or Japanese. When you first come across it, you're very confused. Even English, come across that the first time. It's not easy. Nonfiction is not necessarily easy. with practice, we can teach them how to figure some of those things out. As I said, nonfiction books have pictures. Normally those pictures have a little shortened sentence, a caption underneath it that gives you a clue. They have these wonderful things in the back called glossaries. It's like looking up a word on the internet, only it's right in your book. Because they know. They're like, oh, you don't know how to spell that? You don't know how to do it? Look it up. Go on Google, Mrs. Arnold. You can find it on Google. I'm like, but the book has it in here. We just need to do a little more work. So we're not quite to the make and take, but you guys have this folder here. And we have the light reading, if you want to know a little more on all your free time. 5 reasons why nonfiction books are important. Our awesome Great Start schedule. More nonfiction text right here. Doesn't have to be a book, can just be a simple thing. Articles. And then we have a game. Ish. Makes it more fun. Mom's asking me questions again while we read. Dad's asking me questions. I don't want to answer any more questions. Hey, let's roll the number cube and you get to pick the question. Your role gets to pick it. Let me see. So, I found this wonderful online book. It's The Cute and Cuddly Koalas. That's our title. What do you think it's going to be about? I think it's going to be about koalas. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Hopefully, we get I agree. If not, again, that follow-up. Tell me why you disagree. You may go, well, I see the koala on the front, but I want to know more about where it's from. I think it might be telling us where the koala bear is from. Now, this particular book does not have a table of contents because it is a early elementary book. But you can sort of point out when we look in our book, we notice there's some words that are bolder. They're really calling out to you. Those are words that you've got to pay attention to. They're like, hey, look at me. Marsupials and koala bears. That's a funny word, marsupials. Say that word with me. Marsupials. I wonder, what could that word mean? Have you ever heard a word like that? It's hard to say. Took me a while. Oh, let me take a look. Let me see. We talked about, we read before that we watched videos about koala bears, thought they were cute. Marsupials are a branch of mammals. Well, that sentence doesn't tell me a whole lot. I don't know what a branch of mammals are. I don't know what a marsupial is yet. Let's read and find out. Hopefully our book tells us. If not, we're going to do a little more research. Will you help and be my research partner when we get done with this? You're going to be the scientist with me. You're going to be the historian if we're doing a social studies text, a biography, something about a historical event. You get to be that job. And you go through, you read the text. Do you have to read that whole book or that whole passage at one sitting? Nope. And with the exception of assignments and things, if you pick a book, your kid picks a book, you start to read it, and nobody is interested in this book, do you have to continue on at home? No. You can. You can say, this is a learning. This is a lesson for us. We're going to learn more about it. It may not be the most exciting topic, but sometimes in life, We have to learn about things that are not our favorite. So you get to the end, or as you're reading, you take out one of your lovely accessories, I guess, for our reading, and you roll your number cube, or they have your child roll it. Oh, I got a 6. Let's see. After we read that, I need you to summarize the passage. Tell me what it was about. Use the words first, next, then, and last. Now, I know our wonderful scholars can tell you everything about what they saw on the way home from school, but when you put those first, next, then, and last words into it, first I got up, then I brushed my teeth, and then they forget the whole rest of whatever it was. It's good practice and say, okay, it's okay if we don't remember all the things. We can go back and look again. That's the whole point of these texts. You can go back in. And that's something we teach them with the testing. Go back to the text. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to go back and read that book again. That whatever. I don't want to go back to my college textbooks. I passed, I moved on, but sometimes I have to. Life lesson, going back in. And there are different things. So what's the main topic, the subject? What's the book about? What's one fact? And then the harder one, what's one detail? And with nonfiction, that difference between the fact and the detail is very hard. Use some real life examples to explain what that means. Mrs. Arnold wore a black shirt tonight. On it, she had orange and blue words. That's our detail. That makes it easier. If you had a whole bunch of people in a room with different black shirts, you wouldn't know which one was Mrs. Arnold until you talked about what it was on it. What is one question that passage answered? That one, if you roll it and it didn't answer a question that you had, re-roll. Find 3 graphic features. Now again, there's that teacher language. I say things like that, I know what I mean, and I forget that sometimes on the parent end, you may not know what that is. That's things like those pictures, the captions, any charts or graphs on there that are giving you extra information. Maps. So like on this page, we've got bold print asking us our question. That's a text feature. We have our picture giving us a visual about our topic. We have at the bottom here a little caption that tells us who took the picture. Well, who made the picture? I'm not familiar with Unsplash, but that's who took the picture. Again, what is that passage mostly about? Because they can tell you sort of sometimes a detail that they found interesting or part that they found interesting. That's an awesome detail, but give me one sentence that tells me what that was about. This page was about gum trees. I didn't need to know right now about the leaves and the roots. I just wanted to know the big thing. Again, that first, next, then, and last. And there are 2 different ones. They do a lot of the same, but just in a slightly different way, more detailed. What is the title? Who is the author? That is a giant kindergarten and pre-K thing. Who wrote the book? What is the book called? We spend a lot of time on that. Headings. What's something you learned from the pictures? Then you have the orange one, which again, it's just some more questions. We're trying to give you options to find the one that works best for you or move between them. Anybody have any additional questions or comments, suggestions? Before we go to the group? Do we understand the why? And I promise, it is not just because of those tests. Obviously, we want your young scholars to perform to the best of their abilities. We would love for them to shine on those tests. But as I said, the end goal is productive adults. I know in my house, my goal is for my 11-year-old to one day get a job, move out, and be successful there so she doesn't come back home. I love her and I will support her to the end of time. But that's the goal. Let me get the actual, that's the one I was on. If you think of a question or anything you want to know more about nonfiction text, I highly recommend, now that, knock on wood, things are opening up again, taking a trip to the library. Over the summer, I know a lot of the libraries do sort of a story hour. Sometimes they will do like nonfiction-based story hours. Not too far up the road in Columbia, there's Robinson Nature Center. They do little classes, like day classes or things, on different things that are native to Maryland. They go talk to the kids about Maryland plants. They'll get to go play in the river and find animals. It's called Robinson Nature Center. It's right off of 29. And I'm sure there's some in PG County, and I apologize, I am not up to date on my PG County Parks and Rec. Unfortunately, I live over the borderline in Howard, so I'm more familiar with it. In Laurel, there's the dinosaur park. They've got it. I guarantee you they do something.
You said Robinson Nature Center?
Mm-hmm. That one is just one that I'm most familiar with. Obviously, I'm not advertising anybody in particular. And the best part about nonfiction is that your children at home can learn about something they're interested in. And sometimes they learn that maybe not all parts of that thing. Mommy, I really want a pet guinea pig. Okay, let's take out some books on the library about guinea pigs. Let's learn about everything you're going to do to take care of that guinea pig. Let's make a list or a picture chart of everything you would have to do each day. I stress you would have to do to take care of that guinea pig. And all of a sudden they're learning about feeding, watering, cleaning the cage, giving baths. And they might go, ooh, I don't want to do all that. They might not. So I suggest prefacing with, Mommy's not saying we're going to get one, but we're going to learn about it because I don't know enough about it. I can't make an informed decision to say yes or no to you. Whereas you might in your head, no way, no how. But then they've had at least a chance to be part of that decision. Kids like to have those choices in life. So, are we ready to make our own custom number cube? Where you get to make it. You're going to roll it. Parents at home, did they get the packet? The ones our virtual parents.
As long as I have in the registration, as long as I have their addresses.
All right, awesome. So, our virtual parents, you've got this coming if it's not already there. So we can head back to the tables and we get to our little make and take.
I listen to you. Okay, do you need to show it what up? Do you need to show it what I don't even know?
Yeah,
Okay, I just knew the key when you're done.
I say, I can stay up front if you want me to. Okay, and forgive me, fingers, you again.
Yeah.
We're cutting on the solid lines. From the outside in.
Tienen los para hacer su, para doblar. Está bien ahí, señora Magdalena. Está viendo bien.
Also, for your K kiddos,
Miss Arm,
yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You want me to hit you with?
Yeah. Or can you be there?
Yeah, I can be here. We're learning about shapes right now.
Okay.
Right now, we're making
Lo va a coger,
a cube,
va a,
three-dimensional solid shape,
lo va a cortar.
square faces.
Ah, no los tiene. Bueno, pues me va a tocar pues cogerlos. Un momentito.
Every once in a while, Target and the Dollar Spot and the Dollar Tree will have nonfiction texts. Dollar Tree is now $1.25, but still look for about 25 is not too bad.
Señora Magdalena, ellos tienen actividades sin su.
You may need to reinforce your glued spots once we glue with some tape at home. Especially if your kiddos are rolling in.
El nombre y la dirección para hacerle llegar esos. Y si se quiere.
And then the little dotted lines or the not quite as bold lines are the lines you're gonna fold on.
Pues claro, sí, claramente, sí.
And I will say this, I have been making things like this for almost 20 years now, and inevitably, I forget to fold on one thing, or I don't fold enough. I've got to go back in and do it again. Or I fold wrong, or I didn't cut all the way.
Mire, señora Magdalena, de la hojita verde va recortando todo como por esto y se va a hacer como una cajita, ¿ok? De lo verde. Usted va a recortar con las hojitas bien alrededor y eso se va a
And it is in English and Spanish.
y eso en inglés y en español. Ahora yo le voy a mostrar el producto, ¿ok? Es bien simple. Y de verdad que le van a ayudar.
Now if you braid, and you're doing something like this, and you can find sort of 3D shapes that you can break, cut out. Have your little ones fold on the lines.
Y eso se lo digo.
Again, you may not get straight lines, but they get that ownership over it. And then you're going to put glue on the little trapezoid shape once you fold them. As I said, it will, as you're working on it, it might take more glue, it might pop apart. There is a learning curve to this. Do not feel upset if it is not perfect the first time you glue. Because I can tell you on my end, when I made a full set of these for a class once, I was very upset that they didn't stick. Those are some awesome beginning sounds going on there. Vocal experimentation. Hopefully, in the end, you have a cube.
Ya le voy a mostrar. It's hard.
Yes. It's still working on sticking, so some of it will, as I said, pop apart, but that's okay.
Y mire, señora, es así. Este es el producto final de acuerdos en la hojita verde que usted va a recibir. Usted la va a cortar por el
Now I know Kay has access to the benchmark reading program on Clever. Not sure if pre-K has that same access, but benchmark has some nonfiction text in it
Okay.
that they can go to. I read Frozen, I read reading. Most. I personally like the question, have you read another book similar to this one? Because then they get to make those connections. And it doesn't have to be another nonfiction text. They can say, oh, I know we read Knuckle Bunny in school, and that talks about a laundromat. And we just read a nonfiction book about clothes and different kinds of clothes. Pre-KK books, sometimes nonfiction is as simple as, what would you wear for different kinds of weather? And I know they read Knuckle Bunny, or at least the reading teacher at my school read Knuckle Bunny, because that was part of the reading series. And even, is this book fiction or nonfiction? And then that follow-up of, how do you know? Why? The how and the why of it all. Are these things that we think maybe we could use? Make things a little more fun as we move through? I know some of the upper grade teachers do some of these same questions with the upper grade. So it starts down here, it may get more complicated. They may ask for more details or more information, but this is a start. And it gets them ready for those upper grade things. Upper grade challenges. Benchmark reading. Math R. And the science, the NISA, and the science test that they're doing now. Can't remember what that one's called, but third grade. They're doing it, they're taking it, they're doing it, they're rocking it. Spring is big testing time for our third grade now. So spring, right about March. So if you have a third grader or older, there's a good likelihood they will be tested. spring break for Prince George's County Public Schools is coming up April 11th. And they get out 2 hours early on the 8th, which is that Friday. As of right now. If we have some sort of strange snowstorm where we have delays or something, I make no promises that they're going to change. And remember, Friday is a 3-hour early dismissal.
Y recuerde que this Friday,
Yes.
el viernes,
And school is in session on Monday.
3 horas
It was a day off.
que salen.
It's not a side-by-side thing, but a helpful guide for parents. So who's gonna try one of these things out? Maybe this weekend. You'll try it out? As I said, it does not have to be in English.
Y recuerde.
Spanish is your home language? Spanish. Urdu? Do it in Urdu. Nonfiction text is nonfiction text, no matter the language. If your child knows how to read in that language, it will transfer to English. I do not ever want to be a proponent of them losing their home language. Your language and your customs are just as important as school language and school customs. The author is pointing out the title, the author, and the illustrator are just a way to make sure that your child is familiar with the text and where to find that information. It's the first sort of start into delving into the text features of a book. That's mentioned later on as they become independent readers and they, really like Captain Underpants or whatever. Oh, I know this person wrote it. Fly Guy. That's a big one. I like the Fly Guy books. I want to find more books by that person. Okay, we can go to the library, we can search, we can look on Amazon, we can check the first store. Yard sales. Now that spring's coming, yard sales are a great place to find cheap books. A lot of people like to sell them for 25 cents. 10 cents. The first store has gotten a little more expensive. I'm a proponent of, if you can save money, still get a program. You don't need to go buy fancy new books from Barnes and Noble, Books and Millions. Sometimes they have those sales, don't they? We're wrong. And kids, with their interest in books, kids' books are always around.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I know we were such a small group. But hopefully you had your questions answered and have some things that you can try at home. It's nice when you take care of home and then kind of have to do something with them. So by all means, find some time, utilize them, get your kids excited and interested in them. The children are all the way back upstairs. As you are leaving tonight, we have a lot of leftover dinner. So there are 2 stacks of whole pizzas on the round table that you are welcome to take the whole thing. Don't just take a slice. The stack to the left, so furthest from the door, I believe is cheese, and the one closest to the door is all pepperoni. Okay. And then there's water bottles, salad left over, and all kinds of goodies. Exactly. Oh, and we have some frozen dinners as well, if you would like to take some of this stuff. Thank you for coming. And I am Karen.Arnold@pbcps.org. If you have
sometimes it just takes.
Hasta luego, señora Magdalena, que esté bien.
It may just be a little bit, because sometimes it doesn't.
Que esté
Those
bien.
tabs, they might be a problem.
Chao.
So what I do is I just take a little piece of scratch tape. And I just fold it over. Because the glue in the classroom doesn't last. The tape doesn't last either, it lasts longer. That's a lot.
Thank you.
If you have your evaluation and you're ready, I will take it.
Thank you so much.
If you are still working, please continue to work, and I will grab it when you finish. I do not want to rush you.